Welcome to Timberline Bass Podcast, your place for Wisconsin bass fishing and everything outdoors.
Hey folks, welcome to another episode of Timberline Bass Podcast. Today's guest is probably one of the brightest young anglers in tournament bass fishing right now coming out of Wisconsin. At 19 years old, Grant Neubauer of Medford, Wisconsin, has already qualified for the MLF All-American, has multiple top 15 finishes in MLF competition, and built one hell of an impressive Bassmaster resume. He's got 2 top 10s, 2 top 20s, and 2 top 30s, which the competition in Bassmaster, I mean, that's something. He's got more than 319 pounds career weight in Bassmaster, and a lifetime earnings between MLF and Bassmaster of right around $24,000. He's currently chasing one of the biggest goals in professional fishing, earning a spot on the Bassmaster Elite Series. So, Grant, welcome to the podcast. We're happy to have you.
Hey, how's it going, buddy? Thanks for having me.
Good. Yeah, no, honestly, when I started this, you were one of the very first people I thought of and one of the first people I reached out to. You're so relatable, you know, you're chasing the dream every one of us wants to, and you know, it's amazing, especially at 19 years old, and to have the maturity and the mindset to do it. I think when I was your age, I was hurt and drinking beer. Those were the priorities.
Right. Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
So kind of starting out, how did fishing become such a huge part of your life?
I guess ever since I was young, I have a lake in my backyard, so I just always fish. Like every morning before school, I'd go fishing, and I don't know what it was. I just always liked it. I raced motocross as well, but fishing was just always that thing that I really liked. And then I actually got introduced by, I think it was my uncle, Steve Record. He actually got me into the tournament side of stuff. And we went out, we had a blast. He taught me a bunch of things like your frogging, flipping, you know. We had like 3 baits. It was a frog, a jig, and a wacky worm, and that's all we threw. We won a lot of tournaments, and I just loved it. And I just kind of, from there, I got my dad into it, we got us a Ranger, and then kind of went from there, and I've loved it ever since.
Awesome. Growing up in Wisconsin, what fisheries do you feel shaped you the most as an angler?
Like around Wisconsin or just around the world?
I guess starting out in Wisconsin,
Okay. Yeah, I'd say like Miller Dam is kind of like the grassroots of it all. Like I'm sure you've been there, obviously. It's just like, you know, you're frogging, like it's super shallow, that type of thing. But like lacrosse is pretty versatile, I guess, for around Wisconsin. It's like a lot of your, you know, frogging, flipping, you know, cut bank, you know, current related stuff. That's the stuff that I'm, you know, most used to is like anything with current.
Awesome. At what point did you sit back and kind of start to realize that tournament fishing could be more than just a hobby?
I guess that's a hard question. I mean, ever since I was young, I always like looked into it. I didn't know how to get into anything like the MLF and all that type of stuff. But my buddy Max Early, he actually taught me how to get into the MLF BFLs. And I started doing them, and I qualified for the All-American. That was the stepping stone of my career. That was just crazy. I couldn't believe I qualified my first year ever really trying, and it was the best tournament of my life. I didn't do like crazy good at the All-American, but just making it was a super big accomplishment for me. So super cool to, you know, make it there, and just traveling I traveled all the way to Arkansas like 3 times just to pre-practice, and I caught a 10-pounder, and just everything about it. It was super cool, and it taught me a bunch, and I'm like, maybe I can actually do this.
Awesome. You know, at 19 years old, do you ever stop and realize how unusual it is to be competing the way you do with guys twice your age?
Yeah, right as I started, it was a little like I could tell it was different. But now, like I fish the opens, I got a lot of buddies that are like similar to my age, just 3-4 years, like Dylan Nutt, like that group of guys, like Nathan Reynolds, all them guys. You know, they're about 20 to 23 years old. That's pretty normal now. It seems like there's a lot more guys coming up that are really good. So it seems normal to me, but really, it's probably not super normal.
Well, and that's it kind of makes me sad a little bit. You young guys are a lot of pushback and everything, but at the end of the day, I mean, this is what we've been working towards the whole history of bass fishing. I mean, you guys are the pinnacle and the end goal, and I think people need to take a step back and really appreciate it for what it is.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's pretty cool seeing everybody, there's so many more young people in it right now. Like it's never used to be like this, obviously. Even when I started, I'm not very old, but like when I started, there was nobody my age doing it, and you can already see like a lot more kids getting into it.
Yeah. What would you say has been the biggest challenge of competing against, we'll call him a seasoned veteran?
I guess like they just know so much more about like what to do, like adapting wise. Like for me, when I started, it was like if I didn't catch them in my first couple days of practice, or like if I had 3 days of practice, I didn't catch them in them 3 days. In the into the tournament, I kind of struggled because I didn't know how to adapt. But them other guys, they have more experience, so they can kind of adapt with the conditions. Or even if I caught them in practice, and then I get there and they're not there, that's the hardest thing. Is like whether you should leave the fish to go find fish. But I've learned like if you can leave fish, like leave what you found in practice to go find new ones, you can do a lot better. But that's like the hardest thing for me because everybody else I felt like was better, but I'm getting better at it now.
Well, and that's kind of the thing too. I see more and more, especially like with my old man, that built up years of knowledge can really bite you in the ass some too.
Yeah, for sure.
What would you say has surprised you most about professional level competition?
I guess how hard it is. Like I knew it'd be hard going into it, but like when you think you caught them so good that like nobody could beat you, you're gonna be sitting like top 40. Like all the checks that I got this year in the opens, it felt like I should have won. Like it's just crazy how much better they are than everybody thinks. Like it's just unreal. Like you got to catch them really, really good and get some really lucky bites if you're gonna do good.
Well, and from an outside perspective, I don't know, I'm not in it, but it seems like the level of competition in the opens is so much higher, and just they're hungry. They want it
Yeah,
so much more. You haven't made it yet. And I think
yeah.
that must get more attention than the elites itself because it's such a raw story.
Yeah, no, I agree for sure. It's like everybody wants to make to the elite so bad that it's like everybody's so hardcore, and I love it, man. It's cool. And I will say, like I was at Norman earlier this year, and I had a limit both days. Like that's not a big deal anymore. Catching a limit, like that's something that is like different to me. I'm like I got a limit both days, and I finished horribly, like in the hundreds, and I'm like, how is this possible right now? Like how did I do this bad? And I had a limit both days, but it's just them guys are so good that they just find everything. You have nothing to yourself ever, and it's like you gotta be on them to do decent out there.
Well, and like with you, like you said, it's not like you've been doing this for 20 years, at this the competitive side of things. You know, the know-how and the experience you have. I mean, what do you attribute that to? Time on the water, or was it hours of watching YouTube videos and picking people's brains? How do you get to that point that quickly? I think that's what amazes me the most about you kids. Or I shouldn't
Yeah.
even sorry.
I guess it'd say like now that you said like picking people's brains, that's something I'm really good at. I try to like take something from everybody that I talk to. Like I've talked to so many people that I look up to, and every time I try to like, I actually I did the ambassador program for Bassmaster last year, and I got with Greg Hackney and Buddy Gross, and the whole day I didn't want to bother him too much, but I was definitely I asked a ton of questions. And I try to learn so much. Like I know that I'm behind, so I try to learn way more than like anybody ever would. So that's kind of like a big thing for me. I ask a lot of questions, and I try to just stay humble. Like I never act like I know too much because you don't learn much when you act like you know everything. So I try to learn a lot from other people, but I would say probably time on the water is the biggest thing. I'm on the water like a lot more than anybody would really think, and I spend like every last minute of like our practice periods on the water. Like I try not to miss any time like of our official practice, and like I go in pre-practice for everything, and I put in a lot of time and a lot of dedication into it.
Oh, and that's the biggest thing, and definitely hang on to that. You don't always got to be the brightest bulb in the freaking box, but if you can outwork everybody standing next Yeah, it shows through.
Right.
So what made you decide to fish the opens to pursue the Elite Series? Why not the MLF route or something different?
I guess there's a couple different factors. One is like the Elite Series is just like the main goal. Everybody wants to make it to the Elite Series. That's always what you hear about, and that's like just the pinnacle of the sport. A lot of people talk about MLF, like the Bass Pro Tour, being the pinnacle, but in my opinion, it just doesn't get like as much. I don't know how to explain it, but it's just nothing's going to compare to the Elite Series ever. And I just always wanted to make it. And if I'm going to spend all my time and money into, making something, I want to make the right one. Like, I don't want to make the BPT and then be like, shoot, now I want to go over to the Elites and have to qualify again. So, yeah, and then as well as like a lot of my buddies are fishing the Opens, like Doug Chapin, a really good buddy of mine. Huge mentor for me. He's taught me everything I know pretty much about like this live scope and just a lot of stuff like that. So I get to travel with him and just, travel the country with a good group of guys, Bo Thomas, Nick Marsh, Chris Miller. Like there's a bunch of good guys that I get to travel with and learn from.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
What was your first open event like? I mean, that had to be I don't want to say a rude awakening, but how do you prepare yourself for that?
Yeah, that was insane. It was in Florida, so I actually got lucky. I stayed with my sister Kendra in Florida for like I don't even know. I was down there for a long time, like all winter, and I prepared for the Kissimmee Chain event quite a bit. Me and Doug went down early and did some pre-practicing and stuff. But no, it was crazy. Like I was super nervous. My whole family, like family and friends, everybody wanted to come, and I was just freaking out. But no, the first event was like just a blessing, man. I pulled up to my first spot. Well, actually, first spot in practice, I had like 2 7-pounders on one jerk bait. It was like crazy. It was just going down first day of practice, and ended up being a bad practice after that. But I ended up, me and Doug shared a little spot and just grinded it out all day and caught what did I have? I think something in the 16s after day one. And I was like sitting 14th, and I was just like so stoked. I'm like, there's no way this just happened. But no, it was a really cool event. Day two was a little more of a struggle bus, but still got a check. And I was like, man, I didn't think I could do this. Like I thought I'd be in the hundreds and somehow managed to get a check. So that was pretty cool.
So have you had that moment yet where you sat down and realized like, hey, I belong here? I mean, have you hit the point where it doesn't feel like you're playing pretend anymore?
I guess I don't know. It seems like one event you'll feel like you're on top of the world, and the next one you feel like you're just a local kid that's not supposed to be there. But I mean, the last event on Kentucky Lake, I had a really bad practice, and I just kind of went back to like just how I fish. I just went fishing, and I stopped worrying about it so much. And like the last 2 hours, I had an incredible time. I caught 3-pounder after 3-pounder, and I sat down. I was just like, "This is unbelievable! I can't believe it!" And yeah, it just kind of opened my eyes. I'm like, man, maybe I can do this. And yeah, it's just unreal sometimes.
Absolutely. Sorry, I muted my mic there for a second. My wife got home and the dogs went nuts. So what would you say you've learned throughout all this, as far as, to be consistent? Because let's be honest, I mean, you looking at your track record, you are very consistent.
I appreciate it. Yeah. Consistency's like always been my main thing. I'm not like a hero type fisherman. I don't know what it is. I don't get it. Like there's certain people that like go out there and they're either top 10 or they're dead last. I've just always fished safe, and I think that comes down to like my practices. Like I'm always trying to find a limit. That's the first thing I want to find a spot that I know I can get a limit. And man, sometimes I try to find 10 spots that I know I can get a limit, and then I go, try to find spots that are big fish spots. And I don't know what it is, but I just put a lot of time into it, like before practice, like just breaking down bodies of water, map study, and just, that type of stuff. But it's something about it, like the way that I fish, it must just be, I don't know, I'm a limit filler. Like I just like filling my limit and then going for the, catching a bigger, like one or two big ones. And that's kind of like the consistency type of thing. But like there's certain guys that only go for big fish, and that can be a blessing, but it also can be, it can hurt you quite a bit as well, because there's plenty of guys that get one top 10 and they got 5 that are under, or 5 100 place finishes. And to me, that's not where I want to be. I want to always be in the striking distance to like a check. So
Well, and that's the big thing. I think a lot of people don't understand. The opens and trying to qualify. Well, even once you make the Elite Series, it's a points
Hmm.
game. At
Yeah,
the end,
right.
that's what you're kind of shooting for more than anything. And once you hit the elites, if you want to have your hero moment here and there, you can shoot for it. But
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like the hero things, they just kind of come with time. That's what I've been told anyway. And like the national championship this year, that was like one of those events where I didn't win it, but it sure felt like I should have won it again, you know? I just had a crazy good event, had some really, really lucky bites, didn't lose like any fish. And that's the hero moment to me. I mean, eventually maybe I'll win one, but regardless, I'm super happy with the finishes I have had. So
well, and everybody always says it. You have those days where you do no wrong. If you're having that day, it's that day.
oh yeah, for sure, for sure.
And do you notice, a difference? Mental plays so much into bass fishing. Your
Hmm.
mindset. Do you notice a big difference on between your better finishes and your, not quite as good? Just what your headspace was those days.
Oh, for sure. Like in practice, like for example, Norman, that's my worst finish of my life. And that whole practice, I was super like anxious and just freaking out. Honestly, I don't know, something was weird that week, and my whole family again come down, so I was really wanting to do good for them, but it just I wasn't fishing right. I wasn't in the right headspace, like you were saying, and that completely ruined the whole week for me. But the times that I've done really good, I just stay really confident. And if I lose a fish, that's the biggest thing. If I lose a fish, as long as I stay calm and like don't get all clustered, I don't know. It's just if as long as I stay calm and I don't even think about it, I'm good. Kentucky Lake was a good example. The second day, I swear to you, I must have lost 15 fish, and a lot of them were 3 pounders, and I was like, I was just jumping them off, and it was so it just hurt. It just hurt. I didn't even know what to think, but I just kept on praying all day, and then the last 2 hours, like I was just saying, I pulled up to this one little stretch, and it was just one after another, and I couldn't lose them then at that point. So I was just like, today's my day. I just had to wait, just had to wait till the end of the day, stay positive, and that's definitely the best, like for like mindset type thing. That definitely plays a big role.
Awesome. Yeah, a lot of people don't understand how much, I'm really bad for it with club tournaments and stuff. I go into it, it's just a club tournament. I don't care. And, you
Hmm.
know, you put yourself in that position. But
Yeah.
uh, for a lot of the listeners who don't understand, we all know it's really difficult to qualify for the elites. Um, can you kind of go into explaining? You don't got to go too crazy, but you got the opens and then you got the qualifiers. I mean, kind of give us a quick rundown on what goes into that and how you actually get to the Elite Series from the point you're at now.
Yep. So there's two divisions. They actually used to do it. There was 9 tournaments and top nine go. So it's super simple. But now they went back to like, or they just did this new thing. It's two divisions. There's 4 tournaments in each division, and the top 50 in each one of them divisions go to the EQs. And then there's like the people that are fishing 8. That's like the total guys. Them guys get like top 35. So there's essentially 135 guys that go to the EQs. And when you go to the EQs, you fish 3 events. These are late, late year. I don't even know. I think like November or something like that. We do the EQs, but you fish them 3 events. You go back to zero. Like so, everything that you've done in these first 8 tournaments like don't matter at all. So that kind of sucks. But you do them 3 tournaments, and the top 10 guys go to the Elite Series now.
Awesome. And then now in the EQs themselves too, can't some of the elite guys step back down to that to try to requalify?
Yep, yep. I'm pretty sure. I don't know too much about the elite stuff, but I know they can fish it. I just don't know like the requalification stuff like that. I'm not too sure about it, but
But that doesn't take any spots away from you guys.
right. That's what I've heard. They don't take no spots away from us.
Okay, good
Yeah.
deal. That always seemed kind of screwy. I mean, I love the fact that they're giving guys a chance to stay in, but you
Right.
don't
Yeah.
spot away from the hungry guys coming up either.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, so how much pressure do you feel throughout the season knowing that every finish matters? I mean, clearly that affects the way you go into it, but
Mm-hmm. I kind of like it. I've never been one to like, I don't know, like I said, I'm never like a hero or zero type guy. So I'm always like, I like the points, I like the pressure. So I like having the pressure on each one. It's definitely like added pressure when my family comes, I'll tell you that. But that's some pressure. Sometimes that's really nice. Sometimes it kind of hurts me because I get like in my head a little bit and I know I need to catch them and it kind of messes with me. But for the most part, I like the pressure.
Good deal. Do you watch the point standings or do you try to ignore them?
So I try not to. I try to ignore them, but like everybody at the house always tells me what I'm in because they're always like hawking it, and I'm just sitting over there like, "Don't tell me, don't tell me." But they always end up telling me. And like earlier this year, I was in fourth place in points, and I was super pumped. Like I wasn't gonna look, but they all told me, so I figured I'd look and seen I was in fourth, and I'm like, "Dang man, I gotta keep it up." And then that's when it kind of messes with you. I'm just better off just fishing and just doing my own thing because it really doesn't matter as long as I make it. And still right now I'm sitting in ninth, which is solid. I'm not mad about it. I'm happy about it. It's just it doesn't really matter. I'm just kind of doing my thing, and hopefully we can make the elites.
Well, rough estimate, how many years would you say you've been tournament fishing total at this point in your career?
That's a really hard question. I guess I should have thought about this before. I don't know, maybe probably 8 years, somewhere around that, I'd say.
You know, when you really sit down and think about those numbers at your age with those years of experience, man, I've been doing this for frickin' since I was 8 years old, so 20 some odd years. I mean,
Oh yeah.
you are a freaking freak. It is amazing. You should be so proud. And like I said, that's what I love about you, how humble you are. I mean, like, it's phenomenal. But, dude, like, you are doing some amazing stuff.
I really appreciate it. It means the world to me.
What would you say your biggest strength is when you're trying to put together a full season?
Well, consistency, I guess, like we talked about, that's probably my biggest strength is just staying consistent, trying to, just always be in the upper third. But I mean, I don't know. I guess I'd say, yeah, just consistency. And I put in, like I said, a lot of time, doing like the pre-practice and stuff like that. And that I think that helps a lot, especially being from, Wisconsin here. I've never really traveled out of the state until the last couple of years. So pre-practice helps a bunch, just kind of getting an eye on the new water. And there's a bunch of new stuff. Like you go down there, I've been buying so many St. Croix rods in the past couple of years that it's unreal. Because it's just usually I'm just throwing a frog, a Senko, a jig, but now you gotta, venture out. You're throwing flutter spoons and just, koiks. You know how it is. You got to buy so many different techniques, and it's really cool. I love, the whole learning aspect of it, and I hope I never get to, or I hope I can do it forever and just keep learning. I love the whole learning aspect of it.
Yeah, that's always been my biggest thing too. I look at it as even if you're having the shittiest day you can imagine on the water, as long as you take something from it, it wasn't a wasted day.
Right. No, I agree for sure. As much as they suck, it definitely you learn a bunch still.
Yeah, that was a really good segue though. Coming from Wisconsin, you're traveling to fisheries that are completely different from what we
Yeah.
have here. You got tidal waters, you got, freaking Florida is a beast of its own. You get
Oh
down to
yeah.
the that's nothing like here.
Mhm.
Um, what would you say was the hardest part adjusting to that big a diversity?
I'd say the spawn is definitely the most like adjusting that I had to do is because there's such a long spawn when you're down south. I never really bed fish back at home because usually I mean it's like a 2 week period really that you can bed fish around here. Obviously there's exceptions with that, but like there's really just a 2 week period around here. But you go down south and it's like a 3 month period. It can be even longer. So I got down there, in January, and I was thinking like it's Florida, I can go do whatever. I didn't have to think about. I thought I was going to drag shell beds, but there's people finding like 7 and 8 pounders on bed, and I'm like, are you kidding me right now? This ain't right. And then you go all the way to Norman, which was like 3 or 4 months, maybe more than that, like 4 down the road, and we're still bed fishing. I'm like, are you kidding me? And I kind of feel like I missed that this year. I didn't do as much fishing as I should have, but also bed fishing can hurt you quite a bit. So as long as you can find some sort of pre-spawn pattern, I feel like it's a little better. But no, bed fishing was definitely the the one thing that's really different from, northern fisheries to the southern fisheries.
Yeah, I guess that's one thing I would have never really considered. I thought for sure it would have patterns or something like that, just because we have hard water. But
Yeah.
what's the hardest part for you showing up to a new lake you've never seen before, especially with the diversity of what you're doing?
Kind of like where to start. That's always everybody's issue, is like when you pull up to a place, you don't know where to start. You don't know historical, like how tournaments have gone. Like there's usually always some sort of bay or some sort of, creek or some sort of something that it always goes down in, whether it's, half of the tournaments get one out of there, or sometimes 3/4, or all the tournaments get one out of this zone. That's a big deal. So you got to do your research before and try to figure that out, whether you got to talk to people to try to find a zone. It's not necessarily spots, it's just a zone. There's always a zone of the lake that always gets one out of. So that's kind of like, that's what I always try to figure out. But if I don't know that, it can be a real struggle bus trying to find a zone. But you got to like kind of pick your own zone then, and just kind of just fish it. Like there's fish everywhere in the lake. You just kind of got to find your own little pattern in that zone,
Yeah. Um, how so? Starting out during practice, where do you start on actually picking it out? Is it going to them zones and picking it up? How do you approach it?
So usually I try to I don't think about it too much. Like right now we're going into lacrosse, and I haven't even thought about where I'm going to start, because it's just usually the day before I think about like how the wind is, and like if it's going to be really windy, I don't want to go fish stuff that's going to be blown out. I want to fish stuff at like the best of, you know what I'm trying to say? Like I don't want to go fish stuff that ain't going to help me in the tournament and all that type of stuff. So I think about that, but usually I try to start on something very obvious. Like I'm gonna pick an area. Like usually it's a really big area, and like for example on Sam Rayburn, I started above the bridge in all the timber, and I'm like, today I'm gonna work the whole entire, like I'm gonna try to pick apart this entire area of timber, and I just broke it down. But like a good rule of thumb is if there's a bridge around, just go start on the bridge and just pick it apart and just try to find, certain little things. Like if you're trying to work on your live scope game, just go cast on every single fish, and eventually you're going to catch a bass, and you're going to start to build a pattern, and then you can go expand. But if you expand too early, it can kind of, hurt you, I feel like. Like you can't go run
Uh,
around and just, go run around like a chicken with your head cut off, I guess you'd say. You kind of got to pick a zone, try to find a pattern in that zone, and then go expand.
okay. Yeah, as far as baits and stuff too, I'm sure a lot of that you do your homework historically, what plays in those areas.
Hmm.
Um, but we're seeing more and more, these tournaments that are getting won with this oddball stuff. Here this year we had the chartreuse, single tail grub, the
Yep.
koiki. That really came out of nowhere, but did if you weren't paying attention.
Right.
At it.
Say it again. Sorry, you cut out.
Oh, so how do you try to work in, the getting away from the historical baits more towards, trying weird stuff to see if that's going to be a thing?
So I've never been big into like the weird stuff, because usually there's always like a certain few baits that are just good always. Like it doesn't matter. So I usually don't get like too crazy, but there's certain things like the urchin style baits. You bought me one a little while ago. That bait just works. So I mean, I'm just, there's certain stuff that I pick up on, and I just add it to my arsenal, but I try to stay pretty simple, and I have a few rods. I mean, obviously it's more than a few, but like I got a good dozen rods, I guess you'd say, that I always have on the deck. And I just kind of rotate them everywhere around the country. A Nico's going to work. A Koik is pretty much going to work. A Wacky Worm, stuff like that. There's just certain things work, and I don't overcomplicate it, because if you do, you can. I mean, there's so many baits that you could just overcomplicate and get too. It just spins you out, and you got to have confidence in what you're throwing. So I don't throw anything in a Bassmaster Open in practice. I won't throw anything that I'm not confident in.
Awesome. Definitely not where I planned on going with this part of it, but we kind of touched on it. With the koikis,
Yep.
there's so many different ways of doing it, and if you don't want to get into it, I totally
No,
understand.
no, it's okay. It's all right.
Um, What do you feel right now is kind of the most effective way to fish that?
So definitely like a jerk bait. So this is, I mean, Sam Rayburn and before, this is something I probably wouldn't talk about, but now it's out and I'm good to talk about it. But like a jerk bait, fishing it, like snapping it up, one or two snaps, and then like barely letting it pause and snapping it up again. That's definitely the most effective way to fish it. But you can fish it on anything. You can fish it on floaters, you can fish it on brush, you can fish it on dock posts. I mean, you guys have seen, I mean, you can fish it anywhere, and it's an incredible bait, I'll be honest.
In your opinion, is the Koiki, is that the new Cinco? Because that's totally what I get from it.
Yeah, for sure. I think so. It definitely it gets the fish get used to it a little more in the Senko, I feel like, because it's just so crazy. But there's certain, I mean, everywhere in the country, honestly, you can catch them. I actually just caught them on Miller Dam the other day, on a koi, just messing around. Like they'll eat it everywhere. It's just they get used to it a little bit more. But I'd say I mean, you can just throw it everywhere. It's just such a versatile bait because you can change the fall rate and you can fish it almost like a minnow. I mean, you can't fish it like a minnow, but fish the same sort of fish with the koik, if that makes sense, like floaters, and you can just fish so many different styles with it, and it's just like a jerk bait, very versatile.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for that. I didn't mean to
Yeah,
go there.
no problem, no problem.
So now you do a lot of research. You said you do your map work and everything, and that's kind of a given nowadays at this point at the game.
Hmm.
Do you have any other kind of oddball stuff? I mean, we got all these apps and everything out now. Are you going back and looking through old DNR maps and stuff like that? And how big of a uh, piece would you say the electronics and mapping play before you even make your first cast?
So I like to do the Google Map type thing, like the historical, go back and just look at lakes when they're down. Like for example, Sam Rayburn, it was like 10 foot down when we went there. So I tried to, go back in time and see how it kind of looked and go, to like when it's 10 foot, when it's at regular pool and just kind of that helps a bunch. But honestly, just looking at your map, getting an idea of what the major creeks are, there's always like certain creeks that are going to play, and it's pretty easy to eyeball that. If you're on a big, like let's just say Eufaula in Alabama, you look at that place and there's, the first major creek from the dam, like next to the dam, that's usually a really popular creek on every single, body of water. So I kind of just I look at the simple stuff at first. I don't get too overcomplicated because it's hard when you're back at home to like look at certain things. Like I just kind of look at like the main things that I want to start on, and then I'll build from there because everything looks so much different in person than on a map. But I definitely do a bunch of map study, and like I try to just find areas that I can start in and like build off of, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, awesome. Um, so far, which fishery would you say has been your biggest adjustment? Really threw you for a loop?
Um, well, I mean, Norman's really tough on me. That one was just weird. Something about it, I don't know what it was. It just didn't fish right. I went there even with live scope, and I just really didn't catch them. I don't know what it was. If it was, I think it's just because the whole thing's just docks. There's nothing to it. Like you don't go scanning and looking for brush or looking for, schools of fish. You're honestly just going out there and fishing docks, and a lot of them don't make sense. You're just going down a stretch of docks, and you'll just have one that's just loaded. So that one was a little different because it didn't make sense why the fish were there, and that's a big thing with me. I like to know, why they're there, and that whenever I can figure out why they're there and where they're going and where they're coming from, I mean, it's game over. I feel like I can do really good. There's only a certain amount of places, I'll understand that, but Sam Rayburn was one of those that I really understood, and I feel like if I could go back in time, I could have really, really did good there, but I still did good. It just, I really felt like I could have top 10 and maybe even, I obviously wouldn't have had 30 pounds a day, but I feel like I could have definitely had mid to upper 20s if I would have, figured them out just a little bit better.
Yeah, and that is always the hard part. The hindsight is so good for learning, but it really kills you when you're looking back at stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, have you found a lot of different lakes then that kind of fit your style better than other ones? I mean, do you find a lot of lakes that fish kind of Wisconsin-y, if that makes sense?
I guess not really, but like there's all like every place you can kind of relate it back to Wisconsin. There's always something that relates, whether it's like sometimes there's places that don't have current, so you can't really relate it to like a river, but there's always wind-driven current. Like almost everywhere in the world, there's always some sort of wind-driven current. So that's a big like kind of sneaky thing for me. I always think about that because I'm just always on a river up here, so I'm used to it. And I just love how fish set up when there's current. So I just kind of use that to my advantage sometimes. And then there's certain like frogging areas and like, grass type of fisheries that relate back home quite a bit.
We'll kind of segue a little bit now and kind of move more on to everybody's favorite topic, live scope here. Live scope has changed tournament fishing and fishing as a whole pretty dramatically.
Mm-hmm.
How is having a grasp on it at the opens level?
Having a what? Sorry?
Having a grasp on live scope at the opens level.
Yeah, it's a big deal. Just a couple years ago, believe it or not, Doug taught me how to scope. I was in the same boat as majority people. I was looking at it and I just seen a bunch of junk fish and I'm just like, I'll throw at them. They don't move, and I didn't know what to think. But Doug kind of taught me, a bunch about it on Gunnersville. And I went the week after and I went to Pickwick and I wrecked them. I had a really good week and it taught me a bunch about it. So I'm pretty like new to it, honestly, but I put so much time into it, so now I'm starting to understand it pretty good. But if you got a grasp on live scope, you can understand a body of water so much quicker and understand actually what the fish are doing, not just I just caught them here. Like a lot of times when you're not using scope, you just kind of, I got a spot here, I got a spot there, but really you don't know why they're there or where they're going, all that type of stuff. But with scope, you can just understand stuff so much faster. And honestly, I don't even like fishing without scope sometimes, and it sounds crazy. Like I used to think the complete opposite. I hated the whole scope deal. I never would even turn it on, but now it's just like I said, I'm young, so I'm trying to learn as much as I can in this fast amount of time. So I love having it because it just shows you so much more, and you get to understand stuff. Like at Norman, I wish I got to look down on my scope that whole tournament because I would have understood. I'm just not around any fish. Like I was casting
It,
at fish that just weren't there, and that's a tough thing. I wish I would have been able to adjust a little more.
what was kind of your aha moment or kind of made it click? Like I said, you don't got to go super into it if you don't want to give nothing up. But, I think a lot of us, that seems to be a common consensus. I can go around Miller and Otter and chase floaters all day. And if you get one or two to bite, you're lucky. And even then you scratch your head. Well, what the hell was different with that one?
Yep. I mean, I guess, well, like Texas is a really good place, and Florida actually, to go fish floaters, and you'll start to understand it. But I'd say Pickwick. I mean, that was a week after, Doug took me out on Gunnersville. And I just, honestly, I didn't even worry about the floaters. Like the floaters there's not very many places nowadays that they just float and they're super easy to catch. So I just, what I did when I was at Pickwick is I just fished, the swim bait, and I just watched my swim bait and I'd look for like little, I guess you'd say cockroaches, they look like on the bottom, just little bumps. And you'd start to see them, like you'd bring your swim bait over and they just shoot up. And that was a big learning experience for me because then I'm like, man, I can repeat this in so many different places. Like I don't need to see just a dot in the middle of the water column. Like you can go fish structure, and like that was rocks that tournament. And you wouldn't really see the fish a lot of the times, but they're still there. So that was a big learning curve for me. And then, fishing floaters in Texas is obviously a pretty big learning curve because there is a bunch of floaters in Texas. And I mean, 3/4 of them are bass. So you can catch a bunch of fish and learn a bunch of stuff really fast.
So would you almost say, because the big misconception is guys are going out and just chasing floaters. That's what live scope is in most people's mind. But
Yep.
your opinion, is it more dragging them off the bottom? Is that where it really plays?
I guess I don't know. Live scope there's so many different ways you can use it. Like the MLF guys, I kind of like the whole format they got with the 3 hours because them guys get to go out there and catch them with a minnow. Because a minnow is probably the most effective bait in the world right now because it's never gonna go away. It's obvious. It's a minnow. It's a bait fish. But they're gonna go catch them on their minnow and their live scope style baits. But then them fish are still there, so people get to drag them. They get to do all kinds of different. They're catching them on chatter baits and all your normal stuff. So I don't know, live scope, you can use it in so many different ways, but it's starting to get geared towards like your shallow water. This is a sneak deal here, but like shallow water scoping is definitely the new wave. And, you know, definitely if you're going to try to learn something right now is that, not many people are good with it, but you'll see Fisher Anaya. I don't know, Dylan Nutt, that some of the best guys right now, Banks and all of them guys, they're super good at shallow scoping. And not many people can scope in 2 to 4 foot of water. So if you can learn that, you're definitely going to be ahead of the game.
Awesome. Here I got some more. Sorry, I'm going through my notes. So, you kind of touched on the cockroach thing. When you're looking for fish on live scope, what are you typically looking for?
It just depends on the body of water, but let's just say like your average fishery, I'm going to start casting at everything. Because a lot of places fish can look just a little bit different because of the water clarity and just how the place is set up. Like there's a lot of different fish. You go down south and it's endless the amounts of trash fish. So, I try to rule out the trash fish first. You can't I know some guys like Drew Gill's really good at explaining like how he tries to do it in like percentile, and like he never wants to cast at a junk fish, but it's pretty hard to do that, especially if you're like somewhat entry level. So I'd say that, I just try to cast at every fish at first. The first day of practice, I'm casting at almost every fish, big or small, and I'm just understanding like I'm going to catch 15 drum, but I just want to know where these drum are, how they're setting up, so then the tournament day I can make myself super efficient and not cast at them. You know what I'm saying? But I just try to what I look for is a lot of times is structure fish, because the floaters, they're never like just sitting there in one spot, but your fish on structure you can come back to usually, and there's going to be something there. So like floaters, I don't fish them a lot in practice like some people do, because I know it's super, day to day. So I just kind of let them be, and tournament day I might mosey on to an area that I think there might be some floaters and pick some apart. But for the most part, I kind of look for structure, and I look for your normal stuff that you'd want to find on the bank, just out a little bit deeper, and or even sometimes just shallow, and I just use my scope to see what's there, and I don't have to hook them, if that makes sense.
Yeah. What is it that you use to determine when you're looking one at on scope whether it's catchable or not? When do you know you're wasting your time?
Well, usually if you make one cast at them and they just follow it all the way to the boat, or like they're just, it's hard to explain, but when you'll understand it when you do it enough. But like the fish, sometimes if they're really close to your bait, usually they're somewhat catchable. But if they like trail your bait and they seem a little bit too far off, and you just keep on casting and they keep doing the same thing, like a lot of times fry garters will do this, them fish are really, really hard to catch. And then also like the fish that like are on the bottom, like let's just say a school of fish on like the TVA, if you cast at them and only one or two of them pull up and they really don't get it, them are like the fish that are uncatchable. Which, don't get me wrong, they're catchable some time of the day, but you definitely don't want to be risking it and go and run into them fish, because them fish can be really tricky to catch. And you hear it a lot, like a lot of guys are on big schools of fish, but they just can't get them to fire up, and they're just super sluggish fish, and them can ruin your day. Like there's plenty of guys that go sit on a school of fish all day on the TVA and wait for them to fire, but if they don't fire, you're pretty well screwed. So
Is there times when you find them on the bottom like that where even if they won't come up and hit a minnow or a jerkbait or something, you can bomb a Carolina rig or a
yeah.
football jig out there and get them that way?
Yeah, there's like, it depends on Kentucky Lake. Like the Carolina rig used to be, I hated it. I always have hated it. And I got to the opens and I'm like, okay, this is the year I'm going to use this, because no scope events and all that. And it's got to be one of my favorite baits right now, because it's whenever you see fish, or fish should be down there anyway, that bait just catches them. So at Kentucky Lake was a good example of this. I couldn't catch these smallmouth on this big, it's like a rocky point, probably 15 foot of water. And I just started dragging a Carolina rig, and it definitely took some time, but I did end up catching them pretty good in practice doing that. So it's just like, if you can't catch them on your minnow and that type of baits, or you can't get them fired up, definitely throwing a Carolina rig or your football jigs and free rigs. Then that's a pretty good bait.
Awesome. What would you say are really common mistakes guys make when they're first trying to learn forward facing?
Sorry, you cut out again. My bad.
No, you're good. What are some of the most common mistakes anglers make when they're first learning forward facing?
Um, uh, well, I guess expecting fish to always bite. Like a lot of guys and their casts. I mean, they like a lot of people think that their bait can be, this far away from the fish and they're gonna see it. Like if it's a pretty dirty body of water, you got to hard spot them fish. And what I mean by that is you got to hit the fish like directly on the head. You don't necessarily need to drop your bait on their head, but you got to like bring the bait right by it. And that's a big misconception. Like a lot of guys aren't super good with their casting, and so they're casting by fish that are probably bass, but they're just a little too far away and not understanding where these fish are facing. So these fish don't even see their bait. And then another misconception is like people like to just cast their bait and land right on top of the fish. Now there's some places that works and you can be a little more efficient if you do it, but definitely not the best way to do it. Like you want to be at least, 15 to 20 foot away from the fish when you cast. And I like to try to lead them, like not necessarily like if the fish is here, I don't want to lead behind them. I like to lead on their face side because like usually they're swimming. Like I try to lead a little bit to the right or left of where they're going. And that's like, that'll up your hooking or, catching percentage a lot. Like that's definitely a big deal right now because the fish are so pressured. So there's a lot that goes into it, but honestly, just to keep it simple, just making good casts a little bit past them, and not just understanding that not every fish is going to bite. Like majority fish don't bite. I'm going to cast at 100 fish before I probably catch one, and that seems crazy, but you can make 100 casts pretty quick at all these different fish. So yeah, just understanding not every fish is going to bite and making just good quality casts over and over again.
No, I think that's really good advice. Um, do you still have any situations where you would rather just shut it off and fish traditionally?
Well, around here is definitely one of those. I haven't got it figured out around here. I don't know what it is. I think it's just the amount of crappie. So crappies look like bass. Like some people are really good at determining it, but it's true. Like crappies definitely look like bass because they're so tall. And so that's like I don't like messing with it. Around here, I'm like a frogger. I'm that type of guy. So around here, I definitely turn it off quite a bit. And usually, I don't even just turn it off. I look at it for just like to see how the grass is and just see the depth and stuff. But I don't use it to like throw at floaters per se or throw at brush. I mean maybe brush balls and stuff. But like for the most part around here, I try to stay pretty traditional in the Mississippi River. I don't get too complicated with it.
Well, and that's a conversation me and Dad have a lot. I mean, would you say live scope does not play in Wisconsin the same way it does the rest of the
Oh,
country?
not at all. And I've tried it so many times. Like I've spent days where I will not like just fish traditionally. I only scope, and it's something about it here. I don't understand it. I've asked a bunch of people. Like I said, I always am trying to understand it. So I talk to a bunch of different people, and there's not many people that understand it around here that great. It's something about it. It's just not a scoping area. Like you kind of are better off just fishing traditionally because I think it's just that the fish they just tuck a little bit like shallower and they're always in some sort of area that you just can't see them. So, covering water, with your, just looking with scope, you're going to miss so many fish and all the dots that are just roaming, they're really majority of them aren't bass. So it's just something about it in Wisconsin. It's really tough, but you go anywhere else in the country, it's way easier to do. I feel like there's definitely more trash fish and it takes a little bit to learn it, but once you understand it, it's, there's way more fish in all these other bodies of water.
Yeah. Um, where do you think the electronics are headed in the next 5 years? Because this is not the pinnacle of what's going on.
Yeah, man, I don't know. There's so much going on, and it's been going on for so many years, and I'm over it. I've been tired of it for the past couple of years. I'm not very controversial, so I don't like talking about like that type of stuff. And I don't know. Everybody's got their own opinion on it, and this sport is too small for all these people to be commenting all this like just terrible stuff. Like you'll look at every Bassmaster post, and if they're using live scope there's going to be 15 to 100 hate comments. And it's like just some people just got to get over it and stop. But I don't know what's going to happen. I think that honestly, technology is not going away. Like people got to stop getting that in their head. Like Mark Daniels, I think, just made a post on it and it fired up a whole nother crowd of people getting mad and Randy Blockett, you know how it is. And it's just sickening to see it. It's people, they just all want views, and it definitely gets views. I give them credit. Like they're going famous off of it, but man, it's just not good for the sport. And I hope eventually, like where I expect it to be in 5 years, I'd say back to normal scope and everybody's not mad, but it's kind of like, politics. There's always going to be people mad, and it's always going to be something. There's always going to be something. So I'm assuming it's going to be some sort of 50-50 deal, maybe like maybe like MLF has it 3 hours or something with scope, but I surely hope they go back to just all scope. And I mean, it's technology. It's always going to grow. And if they think it's going to go back to, beating the bank, here's a good point, that I always think about. It's just like the people always talk about how it's really hard to watch scopers, but in my opinion, it's just as hard to watch somebody fish a grass flat and just chuck and wind. There's nothing different. Everybody wants to see targets. Like I would love to watch Bassmaster if they went and frogged and flipped and, was always looking at bushes or stumps. That's obvious. That's just stuff that's really cool to watch. And I think it'd be better for Bassmaster to try to line up the events to be more, you know what I'm saying? Like rather than go and like try to ban everything. I think that's just silly because everybody else can use it in the world. Like everybody else that's not fishing Bassmaster events can use it. So why would they ban it for us? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, and two, I don't care if you're watching a tournament, no matter what you're doing, you're staring at the back of somebody's head, whether he's chunking and
Yeah.
winding. I don't understand the complaint with it.
Yeah.
When they at least show their screen up on, on the TV, you're learning.
Yeah. That's got to be the coolest thing. That I don't know why they don't do it more often, but man, if they did that, this would change the entire game. Like that's kind of, I guess now that you bring that up, that's got to be the one thing that I wish they did. And hopefully in 5 years from now, they always have that up, because that would be every time I see that, that's the coolest thing to me. And I'm sure almost every young angler feels the same way. They love that stuff. So I think that's something that they could definitely grow on. And if they did that, I feel like it definitely helped the, everybody that hates. But there's always going to be, you know how it is. Everybody's always going to have something to complain about. But I think if they did that, it'd make it a little more entertaining to watch. Because bass fishing in general isn't that entertaining to watch. So,
Yeah, no, and they're definitely shooting themselves in the foot by not playing into it a little bit more, I think. Garmin and all of them are making leaps and trying to make sharing your screen more accessible. I mean, there was just that big update with the Explorer unit so you could screen capture and stuff. So we're headed that direction.
Yeah, right.
So we'll kind of, staying in that vein, more looking ahead. How close do you feel you are right now to the elite?
Man, that's a hard one to, I guess I'm not sure. I don't know. Like when I come into this year, like if you'd asked me this in January, I would have said I'm nowhere near the skill. I feel like I'm like, honestly, I guess I come into this year, just level headed, and I just wanted to learn. And that's been my goal this whole year. And the reason I fished 8, like a lot of people are curious why I fished 8 of the opens, because really you only need to do 4. And fishing 8 is almost like it's kind of a waste of money, some people think, but for me, I'm so young and I want to learn. So I did 8 just to learn as much as I could. And my goal is to make it this year, but like really deep down, I don't care if I make it this year or the next 3 years. I'm just trying to learn as much as I can, so the day that I do make it, I can be, really good and just stay on the elites, I guess you'd say. But man, I don't know if I'm ready or not. It's so hard to tell. Like sometimes I feel like, man, maybe I could be ready, but at the same time, I don't know. I try to just stay humble and I just fish. It is what it is. If I can make it, I can make it, but I sure as hell I'm going to give it everything I can to make it, I guess you'd say.
Well, and with the season you've had so far, I mean, you got to have a little bit of a taste for it. I mean, you can see it when you talk about it. That want is there, and that's what I love about you young guys. I mean, so many of us older guys are just so freaking jaded and bitter with the whole thing. You look at you guys and you can see the want, and that's what I love seeing in this sport.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's awesome. Like there's so many young guys that get into it, and I just love it. Like I did a couple, I talked with a high school the one time, and there was a bunch of kids, they were asking a bunch of questions, and like they were just so into it, and I just love seeing that for the sport. And I think that'll definitely help the sport out a bunch, is these young guys that really are super ambitious. And eventually, before you know it, there's going to be more of them guys getting into the elites. Because I mean, from now on, if they don't, even if they ban live scope, Banks Shaw, Dylan Nutt, all them guys, there's Carter, everybody's still going to catch them. And eventually you're going to get them older people, and, not to be mean or anything, but like them older guys, the only reason they're in the elites right now, they're not fishing good. Like, they're not by no means as good as half of the other guys. They've just been in it for so long that, their points, like, they collectively can stay in it. A
Yeah.
lot of these open guys, they should be like, they're definitely good enough to be in the elite series. So eventually you're going to see some of them guys that aren't doing as good anymore start to fade out, and this is going to, become a lot more competitive, I guess you'd say.
Well, in every other sport in the world, the old guys age out. It's sad, but
Yep.
unfortunately, it's a fact of life. It is what it is. Give it to
Yeah.
the still appreciate it and still want it.
100%. Like, a lot of the guys are super, super sore about it. And I would 100%, if I was in their shoes, I'd feel the same exact way. But it is what it is. Like you said, every sport, it's how it is. The younger guys, they definitely, I don't know what it is, but, they just have more want, I guess you'd say. So, I'm excited to see what the future holds for fishing. I feel like the younger guys definitely are going to start to take over. And I mean, you can see it already. MLF does a little bit better job of it. Like, I feel like you see a lot more of the young guys just really doing good over there at MLF. And it's pretty cool to watch. Like, just last, I was watching the weigh-in just the other day, and Banks got first and Dylan got second. And it's like, man, that's just so cool to see. Like, they were all just roommates a couple years ago, and they've lived together for a long time, and that's it's just so cool to see it going down like that, and professional level of fishing.
Well, and the one thing I really wish we see, they've got all these shows on Netflix now following golf pros and stuff like that. Like, I enjoy watching from time to time, but I'm not going to do that every Saturday. I'm fishing. Like, I got better stuff. But you know what? If somebody got together and took a group of you guys living out on the road, showing the grind, the fun, I would watch the shit out of that.
Yeah, no, I agree for sure. I think that's pretty cool. Like, I'm not huge into watching fishing alone either. It isn't super cool to me, but like you said, the grind is definitely, like, I'm not big into watching anything, to be honest, but I watch a bunch of them type of videos that are like the people that are grinding, like Cooper Gallant. I'm not sure if you watch his YouTube, but he had a series back in the day when he was trying to make it, and it was just so good to watch, because you could tell he just wanted it so bad. And that's definitely the cool part about it, is that, the guys that are chasing the elites. Once they make the elites, it's not, in my opinion, as cool to watch. But like, when they're chasing it, that's definitely the cool thing.
Yep, and I think Bassmasters and MLF are really missing with all the hungry guys trying to earn it, because that's where the story is. That's what makes the story.
100%.
What would it mean to you if you could accomplish this goal right now, being so? I'm sure you would be ecstatic, but it's got to have some sort of deeper meaning to you.
Man, it would just mean the world to me. I don't even know what I'd say, honestly. Like, I've thought about it a few times, and it's just like, if I made it this year, even if I made it next year, man, if I made it just in general, it would be the most rewarding thing. I've worked so many days of my life. I've spent every last bit of my life trying to make it, and man, if I made it, I don't even know what to say. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just would be unreal. And I would have, I just have to thank my parents so much, because even to where I am right now, if anybody knows, this sport is extremely expensive. Not only just like your tackle, your boat, your truck, it's the gas, it's the Airbnbs, it's everything that happens. Like, stuff goes wrong, and just, there's so many things, and there's no way I could be able to afford it, I'm pretty much just full-time fisherman right now. I work for my dad right now, but it's, I'm pretty much just a full-time, professional bass fisherman. So it's very expensive, definitely. And without them, I wouldn't be able to do it. And they've 100%, gave me everything they could to get where I am. So I hope I can do this for a long time. And, I hope eventually I can make it. And it would be incredible if this year was the year.
Yeah, and that's that's one thing I hate hearing on too, from the hate a lot of the younger guys that are getting, oh, mom and dad's paying for it, whatever. What parent right mind. I mean, I've got kids of my own. I would sell everything I own to put my boy in your position. I would
Hmm.
fight. Uh, and that money isn't what's making you good. It's the want. It's putting in the work. It's that's what is so amazing with all you young guys.
Yeah, like a Fisher and I is a great example. Obviously, I don't know if you follow them very much, but Ryan gives them everything and more, and that's similar to how my dad is and my mom. Like they just give me everything, and they try their best to. Obviously, I got to pay for plenty of stuff, and I'm not making much money doing this, but man, it's a tough sport, and a lot of people say like it's just daddy and mommy's money, which don't get me wrong, they definitely help me a bunch, but you got to put in the time. Like you can't just go out and do what most of these guys are doing. You just don't. It just doesn't happen just like that. Like everybody's
Yeah.
got the same sort of stuff. Like you go to the opens and people think that I got this Phoenix boat and I got all these graphs. Like I should be able to win just from that. But I mean, I probably got one of the. I mean, I don't even know. It's one of the older boats. It's just a year and a half old, but honestly, it's one of the older boats on tour. So it's crazy. Everybody has the same amount of stuff, and it's you just you gotta put in the time for sure.
Yep, and that's one thing I hope you can keep that mindset. Don't let those freaking clowns and idiots freaking ever get on your guys' nerves. Because I'll tell you what, I heard this quote not too long ago. You never get hate from the people above you. You only get the hate from the people that are jealous.
Right, for sure.
Um, once we'll skip ahead. Grant Neubauer qualifies for the Elite Series. I mean, at what point? What are your goals from there?
Definitely win an AOI. Like I said, I'm more of an AOI consistency type of guy, so I'd like to win the AOI. Maybe win a classic eventually, but honestly, just winning an AOI would be pretty insane to me. But I don't even know if I made it to the elites. I wouldn't just be happy to be there, but like I'd be really happy to be there. But just kind of being like Trey. Trey gives all the glory to God, and just very humble person, and them type of guys. Just kind of being like that, and just trying to stack up as many top tens and as stuff like that. That'd be my goal, I guess you'd say, just to stay humble and just fish and just have fun with it, and yeah.
That's awesome. Does it scare you a little bit? You'll get there and it won't quite be what you thought it was. And not that a guy would have regrets, but we've all done that. You want something forever and you get it and you're like, well, shit, this ain't what I expected.
Yeah, no, I've heard that actually quite a few times that making it to the elites is awesome and all, but then you get there and it's still, the grind that the opens were money wise, and there's like the few guys on tour that are just, not as nice, and they're kind of stuck up, and it is what it is. You're going to meet them people everywhere you go in life. There's plenty of guys on the opens that, definitely aren't the best, nicest people, but there's, 90% of the guys that are so nice. And that's kind of what I just block out the other people. Like if people don't want to talk to me and people don't want to, you know what I'm saying? I just kind of do my own thing. And there's so many people that are so nice in the opens that I'm sure you'd get onto the Elite Series and there'll be plenty just like that as well. I mean, there's going to be your few guys. But other than that, I mean, I've dreamt of it my whole life, so I think if I made it, I don't know how much more I could ask for, I guess you'd say.
Is it a little bit of because I'm sure it's on the opens level too. Like when we were at the Classic, you watch the big names, your Kevin Van Dam, your Iconelli, stuff like that. Some guys are who they are on TV, but there are some guys where it is absolutely a persona, and you're like, what's going on? Do you see that a lot on the opens too?
Not as much on the opens, but like you'll see that like when I go to the elite events, you'll see it a little more. Because there's like certain people that definitely, act a little different than they do like in real life, I guess you'd say. Some people are like they act a little grouchy, I guess you'd say, on camera, and then you talk to them in person, and they're the nicest people ever. And then you'll have vice versa. Obviously, the people that act very very nice on camera, and you think you'd love them, and then all of a sudden they're not, not what you'd expect, I guess you'd say, but. Not
Yeah,
on the
that
opens as much though. Yeah, I guess on the opens I don't see that as much, but I mean there's plenty of guys still. It's just, there's 250 guys, and
yeah. Um, and then one last one, and then we'll move on to the last cast segment. What do you think separates the anglers who make it from the anglers who don't?
I'd say the angler of the year type of anglers, like the people that fish and are super consistent versus the guys that swing for it, because swinging for it is going to hurt you more times than not, and that's pretty known. But like, there's just certain people that don't think of it conservatively, and they're super all up in their head. Like, you know what I'm saying? There's plenty of guys that should have made it, and they're definitely good enough to make it. They have a different style of fishing, and their mindset just goes away. I have plenty of people that I know. I feel like they're super good fishermen, but they let their head get to them, and they just get all, it just ruins it. So I think the guys that make it are the guys that fish really, just fish really free. And like your Fisher Anaya, for example, you've heard it plenty of times. He's had really bad practices, and whether that's a lie or not, I guess you'll never know. But they still manage to put something together, and that's very inspiring to me. Like when you can have a bad tournament or bad practice and put something together in the tournament. And I think them are the guys that are, going to make it to the Elite Series. The guys that just are good grinders, I guess you'd say. Like the people that are, when it's a struggle bus, they're all right with just dragging a shaky head and getting only a couple bites, I guess you'd say, versus your guys that are either a top 10 or they're going to zero type thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Um, yeah, no, you have a really good way of looking at things. I greatly respect that. We'll move on to the last cast here. I just got a handful of questions. They're not anything super important, but if you could fish on any lake for one day with any angler, living or dead, where would you go and who would it be?
Um, that's a good question. I would have to say it'd probably be, well, either Banks Shaw or Dylan Nutt. They're just two anglers. I mean, I'd say probably Banks Shaw, and I'd probably say Pickwick because that's his home body of water, and I mean, he just knows so much about it. But honestly, Banks Shaw and anywhere, I'd be fine with going Banks or Dylan. I think it'd be pretty cool because they got like a mindset that's just different than everybody else, and just they just understand stuff a lot. I don't know how they're so good, but man, they're extremely good everywhere you go around the country, and that'd be something. Or Trey McKinney, I guess, like them three guys. It's hard to choose one, but if I was to choose three, I guess that'd be the three people. And honestly, I'd go fishing anywhere with them. I just want to understand how they break down water and all that type of stuff.
Awesome. What's the biggest bass you ever?
Oh, it was a 10-pounder. It was on Lake Hamilton in Arkansas for the All-American practice. I mean, that fish right there alone kind of jump started my career. And like I said earlier, the All-American was, the only reason I'm here today. So that was the whole thing about that was a blessing.
That's burned into your soul for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
What's your favorite bait of all time?
Mm, That's a good one. I'd say probably a frog. I guess it might not be my favorite, but it's my favorite way to catch them. If I can catch them that way, it's pretty cool. But other than that, I mean, probably just let's think here. Honestly, man, I'm so versatile. I got so many different baits that I don't know. Probably, I mean, a koik or honestly a wacky worm. I mean, a wacky worm you can bring anywhere. I can catch them deep, shallow, anywhere in the country. But a koik is the same way, kind of too.
Awesome. What is one thing tournament fishing has taught you about life?
Kind of just to keep a good mindset, that's taught me a bunch is just trying to stay positive through like the tough times. Like everybody's going to have, plenty of tough times in their life, but if you can just stay positive and push through it, there's always going to be the better moments. And Kentucky Lake was a really good example of that, where I just, had to push through all day. And like people don't understand how hard it is when you had a good day on day one and you got to try to back that up, and you just watch 20, maybe not 20 pounds, but like 18 pounds jump off your hook. And it's like, man, it's hard not to freak out, but if as long as you can just stay positive and understand that, if it's God's got a plan for you, and you just gotta, kind of let it happen.
Awesome. And then we'll kind of button this up here. Where can everybody follow your season, support you? Who's back in Grant Neubauer? Plug some sponsors. Tell us where we can
Okay.
watch.
Yeah, so you can watch me. I do a lot of stuff on Facebook. It's just my name, Grant Neubauer, and then Instagram. You'll see me, kind of all over the place, but Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, that type of thing. That's the main deals. But the people that are backing me, Neubauer Plumbing and Heating, that's my mom and dad. They own a business here in Medford, Wisconsin, and they back me a ton. You got Quebec Marine and Power Sports. They're out of Kewanee, Wisconsin. Kling Biles, I got Mike Wells. It's one of my really good buddies back at home. We fish all the team tournaments together. He's helped me a bunch. He's a painting company around here. You got Wheelers out of, Medford. You want to get a truck or something, go hit them up. St. Croix, big help to me. It's like my only like in the industry sponsor that's like pretty big. They've, I think it's been like 3 years they've been with me, and they've backed me, and that's pretty cool. Park Falls are out of, so pretty cool to have them back me. I've always dreamt of having that sponsor, so that's pretty cool to have them, on my side. Hopefully, we can, keep growing our partnership and, keep that forever. But for the most part, that's the main sponsors. I got a couple more, but for the most part, that's the main few.
And I just realized I owe you a very big apology. I have been saying your last name wrong for so many years.
No, it's all right. It's all right. Everybody says it different. My family says it. Some of my family says it the other way. So it's either Neubauer. I mean, there's plenty of different ways you can say it. But
Good deal. Well, I want to thank you very much, Grant. I greatly appreciate you coming on and talking with everybody. And if you'd have any interest, I'd like to maybe hit you up towards the end of the season or when the season's done and just kind of get a grand picture how it all turned out for you, if you don't mind.
Heck yeah, no, I'd love that. I appreciate you having me on. I'd love to do that.
Good deal. Well, thank you very much, everybody. That's Grant Neubauer. Please pay attention, watch him. This kid is going to do some amazing things, and I think we're in the perfect place to come along for the ride.
Awesome. I appreciate
it. Thank you for watching the Timberline Bass Podcast. Please like, share, subscribe, tell your friends, comment, all that normal stuff. Thank you very much for your support.